This is Will Montgomery, former Washington Redskins center.
Yo, what's good, folks? This is Trey Johnson, the headbanger, yo, and you're listening to Mess Hall with Rally Captain and Tailgate Ted. Word.
What's going on, Rally? How you doing, man? Definitely in a different setting here.
Well, for those who don't know, we are at the team store, and it feels good being inside of the stadium outside of a game day. Ted, let's get it, brother.
I actually think I come here maybe twice a week. And when it closed down for a couple of months, I was definitely heartbroken, a little depressed.
You were lost.
I was. And you couldn't actually hang out in the parking lot because there are times when I would come to the store and just come to the stadium and have breakfast. And some people think I'm kind of crazy for that, but this is my happy place. And it feels good to be back here at the stadium. But it feels even better to be joined by Tim Hightower, Director of Alumni Relations for the Commanders. Thank you for joining us, Tim.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you being here, Tim.
Absolutely.
So you've done an amazing job since you've taken over as director. I mean, a lot of the alumni I'm friends with, know a lot of the guys, and I love to hear some stories about them off mic one of these days, especially maybe Kedrick Golston and Will and some of the other guys. But since you've been here, there have been so many events that you have actually scheduled and set up with the team. I'm thinking about a dinner at DC Prime during training camp that you had set up, and Doc Walker joins Kevin Sheehan on his show. And Doc refused to tell Kevin anything that happened at that event. I mean, the stories, the things that are happening, you had Art and you had, Ricky and Gary sitting down with Jahan and Terry and Curtis just 2 weeks ago. Yeah. I mean, what's it like to be there? What's it like to be kind of a fly on the wall for some of those just engagements with some of the alumni and some of the young bucks?
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And, thank you. It's very personal for me, being an alumni, and you go from being on that field, hearing the fans cheer, being a part of this community, to next thing you know, you almost can become forgotten, right? And so I know what that feeling is like, and I know what it's like and what it feels like to pour your heart and your soul and your blood, sweat, and tears into an organization, into a community. The next thing you know, you're thinking, man, was it in vain? Was it forgotten? I'm just another guy. And so with this organization, 90 years of a legacy, to be able to connect with so many guys and get them back reconnected and see the history, the legacy, those stories, those lessons being taught, and that wisdom being passed down from generation to generation is special. It's special to see a Terry, his eyes fixated on, he sees an Art Monk, right? You see him at the top of a leaderboard. But to put your eyes on them and to have those conversations and hear those dialogues, right? Like, that's special. It's special, man, and it's something to be a part of that. I look forward to continuing to build in those moments.
Well, we look forward to you doing that because from a fan base perspective, just seeing the influence that you've had in the time that you've been Director of Alumni Relations, just bringing all the guys back. I mean, it's now Wednesday, November 2nd, and we just had Alumni Weekend. And, they've had Homecoming Weekend, Alumni Weekend for a decade now. Yeah. I'm curious. I'm actually wondering, is this the most alumni that have actually ever come back for an event?
From my knowledge. And look, it's we all know, right? We're the Commanders now, right? It's a new brand, but yet the challenge is, how do you bring the legacy with this new brand? Right, this summer, part of what what we did with Doc, this is the first Commanders class, and so you can't assume that these guys know anything about the legacy and the history of this organization, right? And so it's my responsibility, and it's our responsibility as an organization to make sure that's embedded in everything that we do, right? And so that's why it was important and it was imperative for me to intentionally bring guys who, especially guys who are local, the Doc Walkers, the B. Mitches, the Gary Clarks, Ken Harveys, all these guys Doug Williams, who've been here. They know it. They've seen the city united for this team and this organization. To pass that to these guys. Here's the expectation, right? Here's the legacy. I understand we've had some challenges as of late, and we're getting back to where we need to be. But this is this is the foundation, the legacy that's set. This is why this fan base is so passionate. Yeah. Because they're used to this level of competition and camaraderie and family and commitment to a community. And so seeing those guys, getting a chance for those guys to see that, to hear that, and to buy into that, and then seeing that transfer it all, to alumni homecoming, those guys enjoy it because they like being back involved and being back a part of this organization. So it was special.
How hard is it to get guys who are out of the market to make their way back to this area for things like Alumni Weekend?
You know what? The first year it was probably more challenging than it was this year because you're building relationships. And look, I left this organization, and most guys in this sport, you don't leave on your terms. You leave because injury, you're traded, you're cut, you're too old, something like that happens, and so it's hard not to leave with a bitter taste in your mouth. That's any organization, right? And so you take that on top of some guys that may have been 5 years, 10 years since they've been back, and guys were skeptical at first. Is this a PR stunt? What is this all about? Why do you want me back around now? But you start building those relationships. And that's not to say that there are a lot of great relationships that were built, right? There were a lot of great relationships with guys who are currently involved. But for others, that first year was getting to know those guys, right? I flew down to Orlando the first year and had dinner with Daryl Green and Art and, a lot of those guys who were down in Orlando, just building those relationships, listening to them. What's important to you guys? What do you want to be a part of, right? It's not just me just throwing random events. This is intentional based on the feedback that I've heard from them. So, and the more they see it, the more they see themselves reflected in the organization, the more they want to be back. The more they get a chance to be back around the guys, the more they want to be back involved with what we're doing.
Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent. Because I thought it might be difficult to say, nah, man, I don't want to be a part of that right now. You haven't called me in 15 years. Why, like you said, why now you want to give me a call? But that's good.
You know what? The thing that I've seen, and I literally, man, and this was the thing that it was awesome to see Art. Art was swarmed when he came here Sunday.
I was one of them.
But it was love though.
Yes.
And he felt that. And talking to him afterwards, I kind of apologized. I said, hey, I'm sorry I didn't have more security for you. And he said, you know what? That's what makes this place special. And so it's not pulling these guys' leg, right? I don't know how it is in Green Bay. I don't know how it is in Buffalo. But these guys, and I say these guys, I mean, I spent a brief time here, but you remember how passionate this fan base is. Right? And so guys remember that. And so when they get a chance to come back and they feel the love from the fans, and then they also get a chance to connect with their teammates, it's not as hard once you just communicate and get them back here and they feel that. It feels like family all over again.
Yeah, because they were childhood heroes. And for the most part, they still are heroes, even though they're just a little older.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and speaking of childhood, you grew up not too far from the stadium. Yeah. So what's it been like knowing that and I'm not sure if you were a fan growing up, but that this is kind of a part of you now, that this is home and you're making such an important impact on really bringing the legacy of this franchise together with the future of this franchise?
It's surreal and it's humbling. Just personally, I left this place with an injury. I was so excited to be back here. Wanted to be a part of winning and bringing a championship here. Growing up here in my backyard, driving past the games, hearing it on the radio. So, just you can't help, if you live in this area, you can't help but know what's going on with this team. But it ended prematurely for me personally. And it just left a bad taste in my mouth. And so to get a chance to come back and be a part of building something special here, I don't take it lightly. I said it's personal for me, right? As far as just making sure that these guys' legacies are honored here, but also making sure our fans feel a part of, what we're building here, a chance to reconnect with some of their childhood heroes and the people who they've cheered on for so many years.
And speaking of it ending for you kind of as fast as it did, you came out with a book. And for those of our listeners out there, those people that are watching, you can find it on Amazon.com. It's called A Dream Worth Fighting For. Never let obstacles stop you from being your best self. What made you want to do that? I mean, going from a former NFL player, former athlete, to now the director of alumni relations, it's not like you have enough stuff on your plate. I mean, to actually want to put pen to paper, and obviously that's the old way of doing it, but you know where I'm getting. Yeah. Why did you decide to write this book? Why did you want to share that story?
I didn't at first. I didn't. It was painful. My life changed in 3 to 5 seconds. I go from being here, I felt like at the pinnacle of my career at the time, And the next thing you know, I make one cut and my knee completely gave out. And you go from being 24 years old in your prime to being told you probably would never play football again. That was a tough pill to swallow. And in the 4 years that, in between of just kind of climbing and fighting and losing a lot, life changing. And so I didn't. But the more I connected with people outside of the game, you start to understand and learn that it's bigger than football. There's so many people who are going through, and this pandemic has shown us, life-altering experiences every single day. Losing loved ones, personal health, jobs, whatever that may be. And we're all searching for inspiration. We're all searching for answers. And as I'm laying in the hospital after the fifth surgery, not knowing where my next meal is going to come from to provide for my family, all I could do sometimes was scroll through YouTube or read books and try to find inspiration from somebody who's ever did anything, accomplish what people said they couldn't do. And so it became a mission, right? It became like a personal, like it's a responsibility that it's my responsibility to share. Being that I was able to overcome that and get back to playing, it's my responsibility to share whatever lessons that I learned and impacted me with somebody else in the way that I gleaned from so many others during my 4-year absence from football.
So you're a rookie in the NFL. How much is the difference between a rookie today versus a rookie when you came through?
Well, there's a lot. The economics are different for sure. I look at
Yes.
the minimum salary when I was playing versus then. I mean, even it's just that game is changing, but the expectations are a lot different too, right? I mean, you're expected to come in and contribute like now, right? Like this is a week to week. There's not you're a rookie, you got time to grow and develop it. No, you've got to contribute now. You've got to earn your stake now. And so I think from that standpoint, it's a lot on those guys to come in and learn how to. I mean, you literally go from being a college kid, sleeping in a dorm room, living off meal swipes on your card, to next thing you know, you're in a new city, you're hiring people, and you're trying to figure out what does it mean to be a professional. You got a microphone now with social media. You've got a microphone everywhere you go. Everything is highly scrutinized. Your wins, your losses, your daily habits and routines, who you hang out with, and you're trying to figure all that out in the span of like a few months from
on the fly, basically.
Like you're trying to figure that out. And so, man, again, while being like under the public eye all the time, right? So the game has changed so much, man. Yes, it's still X's and O's, but I think there's a lot more pressure on these guys to perform early and often and consistently.
No, I can definitely appreciate that. I mean, with the economic piece of it, obviously, is the old song, more money, more problems.
Yeah.
So, things opened up. But, you played with the Arizona Cardinals. You were here with, back then, the Washington Redskins, and then the Saints and the 49ers. So, 49ers was a quick stint there. This being the DMV mess hall, and I'm not sure if you know me, I do food. I do a lot of cooking on TV and things like that here. Who had the best food out of all those regions you were in?
DC is such a melting pot, man.
It is. It is.
You know what? It's. I appreciated the New Orleans, the gumbo and some of the some of the places that. But there's nothing like DC, man. There's so many different ethnic, and foods and groups and I definitely had a good time here and I appreciate it here and it's hard to choose, man. But I definitely would rank DC in the top place that I've been for sure.
So if I had to come up with a dish, like your favorite meal, because I feed a couple hundred people out there on game days, what would the Tim Hightower dish be?
Oh, man.
Think about it, Tim.
That's tough, man. That's just depends on the day. Who are we playing? Let me ask you that. What's the weather? Who are we playing? What's the mood?
So I can tell you what I'm making for the Vikings, and we're going to be doing a couple of different things there. Obviously, Juicy Lucy's.
Okay.
We're going to be doing some Swedish meatballs with some mashed potatoes and some gravy. A lot of different stuff going on. But if you were at a restaurant and they were dedicating an item to you, what would you want that to be?
I love Caribbean food personally.
There you go. Okay.
You know, I love Caribbean food, and so for me, it would be some kind of jerk, oxtails, or chicken, or it'd probably be some cabbage, and you know, it's probably something Caribbean for me. That would be my top one.
That's awesome. We might have to get the guys from Kitchen Cray on the club level to maybe make you something.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
Well, Ted, I got a question for people who don't know. What's a Juicy Lucy?
It's a burger stuffed with cheese. Nothing crazy about it, but it's just a burger. I take 2 burger patties, squish them together, and just put some cheddar cheese in the middle. It's something famous in Minnesota.
Okay.
And Tim, for those you might not know, I've been doing the tailgates out there for over 20 years.
Yep.
Fed, I don't know how many tens of thousands of people at this point, and I've got all my menus for the past 15 years, and we try and change it up each week depending on who comes to town.
Okay.
And this week I'm doing a big charity fundraiser out there for fallen first responder families.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we're going to be doing kind of a crazy tailgate out there.
What time?
Starting at 9 in the morning.
9 in the morning.
9 in the
We got to
morning.
get some alumni out there, man.
Yeah,
we got to
we
get some alumni out there.
Love to have you anytime. Some of them actually stopped by for the alumni game. Kendrick Golson came by. Will Montgomery, Ken. I used to do a TV show with some of those guys. So they came out and stopped by. But you guys are always welcome to come hang out, come get some food, and maybe have a drink, you know, depending on what you got going on, and, you know, have a good time before you go inside.
I'll come check you out, man. I'll come check you out.
But speaking of good times, Tim, this was great. I want to be respectful of yours. Thank you for joining us here in the mess hall. Is there anything you want to get out there before we let you go?
No, look, I appreciate what you all do, and look, it's as I said, the alumni. One of the things that we all come back for is the fans. It's the fans, and it's people like you all who are dedicated, committed during the week, right? Mm-hmm. You're getting everyone else going. You're keeping everyone else rallied. That's the reason why it's easy for those. A lot of those guys live here. They stay here. It's because of their connection to the community and to the fans. So thank you all for what you do and for staying behind and with this team for so long. We appreciate it.
Now, and when the name changed, and I remember seeing you outside on 2/2/22, and I was out there drinking champagne for, I think, the entire day, and you pulled up in the Tesla that was wrapped.
Yep.
And you had the nice jacket on with the gold sleeves, and ever since then, the way I've looked at it with the name change is, if I'm lucky enough to have a daughter and I'm walking her down the aisle and she changes her last name and takes on the name of her spouse, none of those memories went away. All of that is still there. All of those things that we experienced together are still there. So that's what I've been preaching to this fan base, that the name might have changed, but all of the memories with all the past alumni that you are bringing back towards us, that all of the Lombardi trophies, it's still the same. We've been here since 1932, and we're not going anywhere.
That's right. You're preaching, Ted.
Yeah.
Look, it's Wednesday, but you're preaching like it's a Sunday, man. I tell those guys, and I'll finish here, one family, one legacy, forever Washington. I appreciate you all, man.
Love it. Thanks, Tim.
We appreciate you joining us, Tim. Thank you.